What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Wrenching Wrecked. It's been a minute. Well, it hasn't been a minute. I've been jamming away on a ton of stuff. Thank you if you're still sticking around and made it through all these tractor videos. Again, it's a new toy. I have to keep playing with it, but this is not a tractor video. I'm just letting you know I did top off the rest of the reservoir on the one-armed bandit crab claw arm 711 loader. So this is done. Hydraulic lines are repatched. Remember when I said there weren't any leaks? It helps if you actually install the hydraulic fitting completely into the socket. I was wondering where all that came from. I re-snugged down every one of the connections on my quick connect in between, but I got another giant puddle to clean up tomorrow. So all I've been doing on that, I know it came up before in the past, but people have asked, how do you clean up that giant mess? Because this thing has been on and off leaky. Oil dry, that's it. No, nothing special. You can see I got a whole pile of it laid underneath the tractor there. I don't know if you're supposed to reuse it. I don't think you are, but basically I put it on top of the big oil pile, let it sit for a day or two, work it in, grind it, kind of sand the floor, if you will, and shovel it up, and I put it back in one bucket and keep reusing it until that bucket's cashed out. It's cheap, it's $7-8 a bag or something. I've used kitty litter at the other shop. Typically I use the waste sand. When it gets too fine, I'll just use sand because I have a plethora of it and it's getting tossed anyway. But we're not here for that. Ironhead time. I promised I'd be getting back to jamming on this, and it's been slightly backburnered. We got it all painted up. Pretty much a dead nuts match from the powder to the paint on the rear lower legs. So that'll be fine. I'm not gonna film it, but we are gonna pop that rear sprocket off. I'm gonna turn it around. I'm guessing that it's a big twin wheel on a Sportster. Sportsters run a single disc drum in the rear. Well, earlier ones at least. The offset. Big twins all have a sprocket that kicks out a little bit. I don't know if you can see it on the bike when it's made it up to a 5-star hub or a hub, but this sprocket is dished. I'm gonna flip it around and see. I think it's gonna be too much to the left. My guess is I need a flat sprocket. Harley bolt pattern will keep it with a 51 tooth. I don't think, actually, you know what? It's a sporty. It's a 1000cc sporty. There's no shortage of power on those, so we might put a 48 on. This is an older guy that's gonna be riding it. We're switching it over to electric start. It's kick only now, but that motor on the bench, not the stroker, but the one next to it, has the clutch basket. And we have all the provisions on this case to run an electric starter. We're gonna keep it that way. I don't need him kicking this thing over, nor do I want it to turn into a bike where he's not gonna ride it because it's a pain to get dialed in and start. But it's gonna be battery. I don't remember what we got. We got a little half horseshoe tank over there. I don't know what the battery box situation is, but I need to get the wheel back on. And I want to switch it back to electric start just to make it happier. The wheel has to go on, well, half moon oil tank over there. And I want to switch it over to electric start, so this will be he can jump on, turn the key, little bar hopper. He's not going to be putting on a ton of miles on this, but gearing wise on an Ironhead, if you ride them, if you've had them, if you're a big twin person and never ridden a Sportster, I love Sportsters, I love Ironheads. However, they run out of gear real quick. 4-speed trans, typically if you're running a stock rear wheel, you're fixed with a 51 tooth rear. You can cheat it, put a bigger sprocket on the front. What is it, 21? Jump it up to like a 22, 23. Some people have said, I've seen it, if it's electric start only and you don't have to worry about the kicker gear, you might be able to get away with 24. I don't exactly know in that regard. I've never been able to get a 24 to work on a kick only setup. 23 is usually the biggest I can go, so I'll go a 51 in the rear on the stock drum, 23 up front, bring the revs down a little bit, and the best combo Put an 18-inch wheel on the back. Also brings down your RPM speeds. So just kind of play that game. But on this one, since we are using a big twin hub and disc brake, we have endless sprocket options in terms of size, but I need to figure out what's going to line up. So let me pop the sprocket off, flip-flop it so it's actually pulled in towards the center of the wheel. Man, I don't even know if that's going to work. That might get too close to the tire. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to flip-flop that. I'm going to put 2 bolts in the sprocket, and then we're mounting the wheel one way or another, and then we'll figure out clearance issues as it goes. I can put a chain on this now, measure that chain, cut it, but I know that it's pitched out to the right a little bit, and I want the chain to be straight. If your chain's way crooked, it will work. It will run, it'll rotate, it'll go down the road fine, but now you're putting a bunch of stress on the sprocket shaft bearings. You're gonna wear the crap out of your sprockets and you're gonna eat up chains. So make sure, in my opinion, axle center, wheel center, you want it to be centered because it's gonna look better, but to me, the chain alignment is the most important part, mechanically. If you feel differently, let me know in the comments, but let me do that. We'll be back when this sprocket's flip-flopped, and then I can find out that it's not gonna work. We are good to go. I got the sprocket turned around here. I'm only putting 2 bolts in because I don't know if this is gonna stay on. It's gonna be tight, but we'll see how close that's getting to the tire once we put a chain on. We are just running a standard length chain, not a crazy wide one. So, I guess let's cue up the time lapse, if we will, while I wrestle a wheel back onto this stupid bike. Just kidding, it's not stupid. But the fun part is putting things on and off, on and off, on and off, over and over and over again until we can get this all together. I did drop a couple of the wheel spacers, and I don't necessarily think I did that good of a job trying to remember where all those went. Whatever. We'll get this on, get the caliper on with the bracket, and then I don't know how far we're getting tonight. Maybe we'll open up the new chain, lay it on there, get that locked in, see how crooked it is with the new sprocket configuration. But I need the wheel so I can make the mounts for the fender, and we might bolt up the Sissy bar tonight and just let it rest laying forward if I can find the hardware. Cue the music. we got the wheel back on. Brake is on in the mount. Sitting nice and pretty. This is probably my favorite brake design. I know a lot of people like running the aftermarket PMs and whatever brand aftermarket ones that use a bunch of different brackets, but these soft tail style, I keep calling it a soft tail style, but they were factory on some of the Sporties. They're just so clean and they work really well. It's a 2-piston deal, but that's what I run on my chopper, and most of the choppers I've built, 2 or 3 of them, shovelheads, and this is the first time I get to actually run a disc brake setup on a Sporty. Won't be the last. I'm doing the same thing. Actually, that one will be getting the frame that's sitting down there. If I ever get time to actually work on that, that will be getting a different brake setup on the budget build. Stay tuned for that. 4 years from now at the current pace. Just kidding, but that's what it feels like. The sprocket, don't know what we're gonna do in terms of the tire clearance. So I am actually gonna pop that chain out. I don't know if I'm gonna cut it to size yet, but I will lay that out because eyeball wise, we are really, really close in terms of where I need that. I'm just worried about the chain rubbing on the actual tire here now. I don't know how much room I have. I think, based on my visual eyeball measurements, I think we're gonna be just fine. We'll find out in a little bit. But wheel is on, it's spinning good, brake is on where it needs to be. Obviously we don't have any brake stuff to hook up, but I need this on before we can move on to fender stuff, and then we'll figure out the gap for the fender and set all of that because it is a rigid after all. So let's throw the chain on, I guess. Hopefully this is a 530, yeah. Nothing like NOS old junk. And then we'll find out if it actually comes with a master link, which, why would it? Oh, look at me complaining. Already assembled. All right, let's lay a chain on here, I guess. Get this wiring out of the way, spin this around. The old mock-up chain. Yeah, this is gonna be tight. Tighter than I want it to be. It's almost actually, shit. It's actually really close in terms of length. This might work. Looks like a 51 tooth rear. And I think we're actually gonna be shortening the chain. Or sprocket, not the chain. I'm not positive, but I do genuinely think I want to drop the gearing on the rear. Come on. So if we come down a couple teeth, typically that means you gotta shorten a couple teeth out of the chain. And this sprocket's cashed out. It's just what I had on the wheels. So mock-up purposes, if I cut this down for this, I would take out, well, this doesn't count, that's the master. 2 links need to come out of this chain. I don't know what size this was. Does it say? Bike Master 195610. The size is not listed on there, but that is the right size for a sporty chain. We are definitely a little too close for comfort with the sprocket configuration where it's at. That'll rub on that tire for sure, especially at speed when it's moving. So if we look down the line, obviously we got a ton of slack in here. Let's see if we can snug this up a little bit. It's really hard without axle tensioners. This might, I mean, if we were gonna run the axle farther back, I think we'd probably be okay here. Let's see. Yay, greasy old oil-covered chains. do I just pop this together and slide it all the way back in the axle plate and see what it looks like? We could tighten this up all the way. Yeah, if we're looking down this, it's got a tiny little bit of a bow. So inverting the sprocket right there, a little too much. So I gotta find a flat sprocket for this. So I'll add that to my shopping list. I think we're close though, man, so close. That would be fantastic if everything just worked. All right, that's about the right tension there. No, you know what? I think the inverted sprocket might actually work. I got a tool for this too. I mean, it's literally just a rod that goes onto there. I feel like it does pull in a little bit. If I run a flat one, we'll be golden. Could I make this work? I think so. I feel better about this than I did the other way. My only concern is I don't like having it, if anything, I'd rather have the chain kicking out a little bit to the outside. But I tell you, that's pretty close. Can you guys see that? Right down the line, or is the tire in the way? I don't know what the GoPro's trying to focus on here. That doesn't look bad. I know cameras kind of skew the perspective, but now I got you kind of tucked into the wheel. That actually looks really good. And what do we got for gaps here? I mean, I got a finger's gap in between the chain. Can easily fit a pinky through there. What do we want to do? I could also just put a couple shims on the inside of the wheel and bring that out. Yeah, it's pulled in a hair. The farther back I come and kind of look at the layout. It's straight going down, but it's definitely got a little bit. Sorry, I'm trying to move the axle holding you guys one-handed. It's a little difficult. I think that'll work. Yeah, I'm feeling good about that. We'll figure out the sizing. Still need to swap the sprocket anyway, so that is as far as we're gonna get on this tonight. I'd like to keep jamming on this, but instead, I think I'm gonna gut this. So this is the primary, inner primary for this shovel head. We are going to attempt to quickly pop off. Do I even need to do that? I think we're gonna weld this up. So I need to blast this section. This section, I want to pull these bearings out. So I will at least take off this bit and then the top starter stuff. Do I need to do that? I'm just trying to, maybe I'll just do a quick spot blast on some of these dirty bits. Tape all of this off, cover that up. And then we got to get that bearing out. So I'm going to tear this down real quick and then I'll kind of wrap this one up for now because then I got to get home. So we have a bearing to pull and then the belt tensioner that we're going to be switching back to a chain primary. Just kidding. I'm actually not going to take all this apart yet because the belt adjustment is going to get replaced with the normal tensioner, shovel head style tensioner. That's going to get switched. This bearing has a bunch of whammos through the side of it, so that's going to get replaced. This I'll take off, but I'm going to bring this to the other shop and do that because I'm not blasting that here. That's getting blasted at the coating shop. So back on the ironhead, the only other thing I really wanted to do today was mount up the Sissy bar. We still got to figure out exactly what we're going to end up doing with the chain alignment and sprockets and things, but I'm running out of time. And the Sissy bar is a whopping 2 bolts, plus your fender mounts, which we don't have a fender. So this will be teeter-tottery and moving quite a bit. But I really, it's just the mock-up phase. This is the worst in terms of work that needs to get done, but it's also, in my opinion, one of the most fun parts, because you kind of take a bunch of piles of parts, start putting them together, and each step makes it look a little bit closer to being done. So this sissy bar is what we are going to be running. We will get this through. I actually don't know, I might need the longer ones. I underestimated how big the bungs are on this. That's gonna be really fun to try and put in. Let's see how much clearance we got. I had 1-inchers, but we need to go a little bit longer here. 2 is gonna be too long. We'll just use 2-inchers. No, 1.25 inches. See how much room we actually have here. Whew. This is gonna be a little too long. I'm also not gonna be running cheap generic hardware when this goes in for actual assembly. Come on. I hate this part. Inch and a quarter won't fit with the sprocket on there. I'm guessing 1 inch on the other side is going to be too short. Bring you over. 1 inch plus the bung. And this is why it's the worst part. 1 inch won't clear. 1.25 inches will give me the perfect amount. So, how am I going to get this back in without pulling the axle out? I don't think I can. Mock-ups are fun. Isn't that what this idiot just said? Now we get to take the wheel out to make sure we get the sissy bar on first, which is going to be really inconvenient. You know what? Screw it, actually. I'm an idiot. We're doing mock-ups. Let's make this easy on ourselves. And instead of running it the way that I would run it for final assembly, we're going to put a bolt through this way and then just snug down a nut on the backside, because that's way easier to get on and off. And I don't have to take the wheel off or adjust anything. So I will run it with the bolt through on the left side of the bike. You guys can't see it, but I just put that through the hole. Throw one nut on here. Should be just the right amount of threads there to bottom out on the flange. And then this side, jam this through like that. Get this started one-handed while I support this. And then if we're lucky, we'll be able to tighten this down enough where it'll actually kind of hold itself in place. I'm not going to leave it that way overnight or anything, but I think that should be pretty close. 3/8 hardware here, so 9/16. Don't have a washer, we don't have anything else on there, but that'll kind of want to stay. That's only 1/2. Throw a wrench and a socket on the other side, tighten this down real quick. I hope this doesn't fall on my head. Should be tight enough to kind of take a step back and figure out what kind of chopper lean we're going to do on this thing. Look at that. Long Springer front end, tall rear tire, black and chrome. We got a chopper on our hands. Okay, so I think that's pitched back a little too far. Hopefully you guys, can you even see that? Unfortunately, it's like lined up right with that beam. How much chopper lean do we want? I gotta figure out what we're doing for seats too. For reference, I'm not gonna use this one, but where did I put? Got 2 fenders. I'll show you guys real quick. This is the fender that was on the bike at some point. This is not choppery enough. I feel like it needs a full one, but just for mock-up purposes. It'll be something like that, or put a full one on there. This is kind of the fun part. I like running the full ones where you get fender all the way down through here, personally. Make a spacer at the bottom from the frame to kick that out to match the top bracket, which might actually end up getting cut off of here anyway. But it's just a matter of how far back do you want to go coming off the tail. And it's goofy. That one's too skinny for this bike. This one, I don't mind it being a little bit fatter. We're not going for like a real super skinny chopper. And I'm using this fender on new chopper. Future project. But, man, that little kink, the kickback on that Sissy bar, I feel like that doesn't look bad. But we're also just kind of guesstimating here. I'm fairly confident he wanted to run a little Springer seat here, and then we'll just do Springer seat, P-pad. I think that should work. We're not gonna do like OEM or old vintage Bates seat or anything like that. It's cheap budget. What can we make work? Fender-wise, I do have a couple other fenders in the trailer that I gotta yank out at some point. Full length that we can cut to fit. So we'd have to drill a hole through here, but I think, and this bracket's going away for sure, the seat mount bracket. It's crooked and ugly. Not seat mount, but the fender mount bracket that's already on the frame. This is not a good looking mount. You can see how crooked it is if you look down that way. And we'll burn that in with a MIG welder because I'm not trying to TIG weld over any of the welds that have already been on this bike again. That was a nightmare. But height-wise, in terms of the fender gap, I'm okay with the stock bracket that's on here, and if I can run it, it saves me quite a bit of time. I would like it a little bit tighter to the tire. Just get a little bit of a gap up. That's a lot of time. We're not building a show bike by any means. And then lengthwise, figure out if he wants to put the taillight up on the Sissy bar or on the fender. That'll dictate how much we leave on the backside. And that's about where we're gonna wrap this one up, I think. At least get to play some mock-ups and take a look at everything. Sissy bar, obviously, 2 mounts on the rear. You need that center bolt for support. I like running the full fenders only because you can kind of clock them and adjust them here. We will get this one set if we do end up running a full fender through here. I don't know what we're doing for battery box or anything else yet. Doesn't look like there's much left on the frame. So if we got to build a battery box down here, that's gonna limit space. We don't have a lot of room. And if it does go back to electric start, I need to make sure I leave enough room for a bigger battery. We're probably gonna end up having to grind down some stuff on that post and figure something out for the battery box and the horseshoe, half horseshoe. I don't know, I gotta dig through the rest of the piles of parts for that. I'm trying to make everything work with the parts that he provided. The only things we've switched, that Springer, new front wheel, different back wheel, but it's getting there. Half hour of work, if that. Not even real work, just kind of playing dress up. So that's the end of this one. I'll figure out what I'm doing on that primary. If I end up taking it apart, I'll try and film it. If I don't, it's because I'm in a rush and I'm trying to just get that prepped for my buddy Jesse to weld up for me. And that should be about it. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.